In the grand selection hall, the last wisp of blue smoke from the auspicious incense in the burner faded away. A eunuch's shrill voice pierced the dead silence. "Lift your head." The candidate in front of me trembled like a leaf in the autumn wind, her mind screaming frantically, "Don't look at me, don't look at me, please don't choose me, this tyrant kills people." The young lady behind me was praying in her heart, choose me, as long as I can become a consort. Our family will rise to prominence." As for me, Shen Yuan, the daughter of a disgraced official, I felt no emotion at all, and was even a bit drowsy. The tyrant Xiao Ju sat on the imperial throne adorned with 9 dragons, as handsome as a deity yet as cold as the king of hell. He could hear everyone's inner thoughts. At this moment, countless voices of flattery, fear, and scheming were flooding into his ears like a tide, making him frown in irritation. His gaze swept over the tear-streaked faces, and finally, it settled on me. He leaned forward slightly, as if straining to listen for something. After a long moment, he frowned for the first time, not out of annoyance, but out of confusion, because from me, he could hear nothing, a deathly silence. His thin lips parted slightly as he uttered the imperial decree, grant her the title of Tyrant and assign her to Weiyang Palace. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. My father, having offended the late emperor by speaking out too bluntly in his remonstrations, was sentenced to execution after autumn, with the entire family exiled. When the new emperor, Xiao Ju, ascended the throne, he issued a general pardon for the empire, yet our Shen family alone was excluded from his mercy. Not only that, but he also captured me from the place of exile and forced me into this group of selected women. Everyone believes this is the tyrant's new way of humiliating the family of a disgraced official. I will likely be dragged out and executed on the night of the imperial visit, charged with some offense of disrespect, to serve as a warning to others. My father repeatedly emphasized in his letter that I must hide my intelligence, remain obedient, and absolutely avoid provoking the emperor's anger, all in the hope of surviving. I understood. My goal is very clear, to be a nobody. To muddle through in the palace, waiting for death, until he forgets about me, and then find an opportunity to leave the palace. So, when the imperial edict of conferment came down, and everyone looked at me with sympathetic eyes, I simply bowed my head calmly and expressed my gratitude. "Lady Shen, please." The leading eunuch, Li Dequan, looked at me with a fake smile. He is the most favored chief eunuch by Xiao Ju's side, said to be able to read the emperor's intentions with perfect accuracy. I followed him, walking along the long palace path. He suddenly spoke. "Lady Shen seems not at all afraid of His Majesty." I kept my head lowered, my voice gentle and submissive. "His Majesty is the Son of Heaven, revered by all. I only hold respect, not fear." I feel like throwing up just hearing myself say that. Li Dequan gave an ambiguous smile and said nothing more. He couldn't hear my inner thoughts, but Xiao Ju could, at this very moment, in the hall of mental cultivation. Xiao Ju was leaning back on the dragon throne, listening to the flattering thoughts in Li Dequan's mind. This talented Lady Shen is quite an interesting one, neither haughty nor humble. No wonder the emperor took a liking to her at first sight. Xiao Ju closed his eyes in frustration. No, she wasn't just being neither haughty nor humble, she was a complete blank. How could a living person have no inner voice? In this world, only the dead are beyond his hearing. Could it be that this Shen Yuan is a walking corpse, or perhaps she possesses some secret method to shield her thoughts? Interesting. How fascinating. He hadn't felt such intense curiosity about a matter, or a person, in a very long time. Weiyang Palace was the residence of the favored consorts throughout the generations, with its magnificent halls and extreme luxury. As the daughter of a disgraced official, I was initially granted the rank of Tyrant and yet was placed here to live. It was practically like painting a target on my face. Sure enough, as soon as I had settled in, gifts from the various palaces began flowing in like a steady stream. The virtuous consort sent a pair of jade rui scepters. They were fine for admiring, but would shatter if dropped, worth a fortune, and would cost a life savings to replace. You little minx. Daring to live in the Weiyang Palace as soon as you entered the palace. Just wait, I'll use these treasures to trip you up and make you pay until you're bankrupt. Consort Li sent a box of exquisite pastries, fragrant and enticing, but they were laced with croton seeds that could cause vomiting and diarrhea. After eating my pastries, let's see how you'll manage to win favor and secure the Emperor's grace tonight. I looked at the room full of treasures without a single ripple in my heart. I asked my personal maid, Chunlan, to register all the items in the inventory and then lock them up in the storeroom exactly as they were. Talented lady, are you really not going to use these? This is top-quality bloodbird's nest. Chunlan pointed at a box of tonics, her face full of regret. No need. I said lightly, this humble one's constitution is sturdy. I won't be needing it for now. I cannot eat, nor can I use it, because I know Xiao Ju is watching me, or rather, he is listening to me. He wondered if, faced with these sugar-coated bullets, I would feel even a trace of greed or calculation in my heart. Unfortunately, he was destined to be disappointed. I just want to be a salted fish and have no interest in palace intrigue. In the hall of mental cultivation, Xiao Ju listened to the malicious thoughts of those women and then glanced at my calm and unperturbed reaction, his frown deepening even further. What on earth is going on with this Shen Yuan? Has she truly become so detached from worldly affairs? He didn't believe it. There is no such thing as a person without desires or wants in this world. Li Dequan, I am here, your majesty, by my decree. Tonight, Lady Shen shall attend to me in the bedchamber. He wanted to see for himself what this woman was truly thinking when she lay beneath him. The news of my summons to the bedchamber arrived just as I was having my evening meal, a bowl of plain congee and a plate of green vegetables. Yet I ate with great relish. Chuanlan's face flushed with excitement. Talented lady, did you hear? The Emperor has turned over your name plaque. You're about to rise to greatness. I calmly finished the last mouthful of congee and wiped my mouth. I know, no need to rush. Let the Emperor wait. Chunlan. Surrounded by palace attendants, I was bathed, perfumed, and dressed in a light gauze garment. Then, like a zongzi, I was wrapped in a quilt and carried by 4 eunuchs into the hall of mental cultivation. Along the way, only one thought crossed my mind. This quilt is quite warm. Xiao Ju had already finished bathing and was leaning against the headboard reading a book, wearing only a loosely draped sleeping robe. Ink-black hair cascaded down, and under the lamplight, that strikingly handsome face lost some of its daytime ferocity, gaining a touch of allure. He listened to the inner excitement and flattery of the eunuchs who had carried me in, then shifted his attention to me. Still, a complete blank, he set down the book and waved his hand, dismissing everyone. Only the 2 of us remained in the bedchamber. The atmosphere felt somewhat stagnant. I poked my head out from under the quilt, doing my best to mimic the coy and expectant expression the instructing matron had taught me. Your Majesty, Xiao Ju looked at me, his dark eyes unfathomable. He reached out his hand to me, his fingertips cold. I obediently shivered, satisfied. He curled his lips into a slight smile, scooped me out from under the covers, and pinned me beneath him. Scared? He asked in a low voice, his breath brushing against my face, carrying a faint scent of ambergris. I nodded, my voice as faint as a mosquito's hum. I'm afraid, but in my heart, I was thinking, dude, your grip is way too strong, you're about to crush my bones. Of course, he couldn't hear that. All he could see was my trembling body and my eyes brimming with tears. This gave him a sense of pleasure from controlling everything. He leaned down, and just as his lips were about to land, my stomach let out an untimely gurgle. It was very faint, but in the silent bedchamber, it was exceptionally clear. Xiao Ju's movements halted. He looked up, his eyes carrying a trace of bewilderment and curiosity. I was so embarrassed I could have dug out a 3-bedroom apartment with my toes. Your Majesty. This humble subject did not have enough to eat at dinner. I forced out the explanation stiffly. Xiao Ju fell silent. He could hear everyone's inner thoughts, so he naturally knew that those women, in order to maintain the most perfect figure when serving him in bed, dared only drink a little dew all day. Someone like me, who ate plain congee and vegetables for dinner and still cried out in hunger afterward, was definitely the first. He stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly rolled out of bed. Wait, he tossed out 2 words and walked straight out. I froze on the bed, bewildered. Could it be, he thinks I'm a starving ghost reincarnated and wants to drag me out to be executed? then wouldn't I be the most unjustly killed concubine in the palace? As I was lost in these wild thoughts, Xiaoju returned. In his hands was a tray carrying a bowl of steaming hot, plain noodles in soup. On top lay a golden fried egg, sprinkled with vibrant green scallions. The aroma was overwhelming. I was stunned. He placed the tray on the small table by the bedside and gestured with his chin. Eat. His tone remained as cold and unyielding as ever, devoid of any emotion. I was somewhat flattered and cautiously asked, "Your Majesty, is this for me?" Otherwise, he raised an eyebrow. "For me to eat." I quickly scrambled up, sat cross-legged on the bed, and took the bowl of noodles. I was truly hungry. I buried my head and started slurping the noodles noisily. Xiaoju sat beside me, quietly watching. He wanted to listen. He wanted to hear what was in my heart at this moment. Was it moved? Is it a secret delight? Is it scheming about how to take this opportunity to go even further? However, there is nothing. Still a dead, silent blank, as if what he saw before him was merely a shell focused on eating. This feeling left him utterly frustrated. For the first time, he began to doubt his mind-reading ability. Could it be that someone who had no desire or fear toward him would have no inner voice at all? I quickly finished the noodles, even drinking every last drop of the soup, and let out a satisfied burp. "Thank you for your reward, Your Majesty." I put down the bowl, my expression sincere. Xiaoju looked at my greasy, shiny lips and swallowed. Full. Then it's time to get down to business. As he spoke, he pressed forward against her once more. This time, he didn't give me another chance to speak. When I woke up the next day, the space beside me was already empty. Xiaoju had long since left for the morning court session. Chunlan came in carrying a basin of water, and when she saw the scattered marks on my neck, she couldn't stop grinning. "Sir, you are truly blessed. Not only did the Emperor keep you overnight last night, but he also bestowed many gifts upon you this morning." I rubbed my sore waist, feeling utterly uninterested in those rewards. Do all emperors have such incredible stamina? I feel as though I've been taken apart and put back together again. For the next few days, Xiaoju did not summon me again, but I became the most sought-after figure in the rear palace. Everyone knew that the newly arrived talent Shen had gained the emperor's favor. Visitors to Weiyang Palace came in an endless stream. Among them was the one with the highest rank in the harem, the noble consort, Lady Ju Wanhui. Noble consort Ju was the biological niece of the Empress Dowager, hailing from a prominent family and holding absolute authority in the harem. When she arrived, her entourage was grand and imposing. I led all the people of my palace to kneel at the entrance to welcome her. "Dear sister, please rise. Between us sisters, there's no need for such formalities." Consort Ju helped me up with a gentle and warm smile, but in her heart, she was thinking, "Me. The daughter of a convicted official dares to reside in Weiyang Palace. Just wait, I'll show you who truly rules the harem." Pretending not to notice the disdain in her eyes, I respectfully invited her into the main hall. After serving tea and exchanging a few pleasantries, she finally got to the main point. "You've just entered the palace, sister, so you might not be fully aware of the rules here. In the inner court, etiquette is of utmost importance. Although the Empress is in poor health and has long devoted herself to Buddhist practices, it is absolutely essential for us, as imperial consorts, to pay our morning and evening respects without fail." I nodded and said, "Your words are a valuable lesson, noble consort." "Fool, you've taken the bait already. The Empress has a temperament that despises being disturbed. If you go to pay your respects every day, it won't take more than 3 days for her to grow annoyed with you. Let's see how the Emperor will protect you then." Consort Ju's little schemes were clicking away in her mind. I could only laugh inwardly. This consort's skill in palace intrigue doesn't seem particularly impressive. Does she really think such childish tricks can be used against me? I showed a troubled expression. "It's just, a few days ago, His Majesty specifically instructed that Her Majesty the Empress is unwell and asked me not to disturb her without reason. I am truly in a difficult position." I brought up Xiaoju. Consort Ju's smile froze on her face. "What? The Emperor actually gave such instructions for her sake? Impossible. He has always been the most filial and rule-abiding." She didn't believe it. "She thinks I'm lying." "Sister, are you perhaps deceiving me? The Emperor is busy with countless state affairs. How could he personally attend to such a trivial matter?" I put on an innocent face. Your servant wouldn't dare deceive your highness. If you don't believe me, you can ask the emperor yourself. Consort Ju was left speechless by my reply. Of course, she didn't dare to ask Xiao Ju. If she went, wouldn't it seem like she, a noble consort, was deliberately making things difficult for me? A mere junior consort, she was so angry that her face turned pale. After sitting for a while, she left in a huff. After she left, Chunlan looked at me with admiration. Junior consort. You're amazing. With just a few words, you managed to send the noble consort away. I sighed. I don't want to be impressive, I just want to quietly be a salted fish. But there are always people who want to put me on the fire to roast. In the Hall of Mental Cultivation, Xiao Ju finished listening to Li Dequan's report about everything that happened today in the Weiyang Palace. He picked up the vermilion brush and drew a circle on a memorial. This Shen Yuan is certainly not one to be trifled with. Li Dequan bowed and said, Indeed, how could someone who has caught your majesty's eye be an ordinary person? Xiao Ju set down the brush. He listened to the inner venom of Consort Ju, then recalled the deathly stillness Shen Yuan had shown when faced with provocation. Suddenly, he felt as if he had discovered an extraordinary treasure, a safe haven, that could grant him a moment of peace amidst the endless clamor. To test my safe haven quality, Xiao Ju began summoning me frequently. But not to serve him in bed. Instead, he wanted me to accompany him while he reviewed memorials. He sat behind the imperial desk, his vermilion brush never stopping. I, on the other hand, brought a small stool and sat beside him, responsible for grinding ink for him, or peeling grapes. At first, I was diligent and earnest, striving to play the role of a well-behaved and sensible little palace maid. Later, I realized he didn't care at all about what I did, as long as I stayed by his side. He felt completely at ease, so I started to let myself go. Today I brought a bag of sunflower seeds. Tomorrow I'll bring a plate of peanuts. Crunch, crunch. In the quiet imperial study, there was only the rustling sound of him flipping through memorials and the sound of me cracking sunflower seeds. Li Dequan watched from the side with his heart in his throat, wanting several times to remind me to mind my manners, but they were all stopped by Xiao Ju with a look. Xiao Ju was thoroughly enjoying this state of affairs. He could hear Li Dequan's inner turmoil. Oh my little ancestor, please stop cracking them. The emperor hates being disturbed while handling state affairs the most. You're plucking hairs from a dragon's head. He could also hear the thoughts of the guards outside the hall. The emperor seems to be in a good mood today. We haven't heard any sounds of things being thrown from inside. These sounds are chaotic, yet real, amidst this chaos. My world remains a haven of tranquility. This tranquility is, to him, an invaluable treasure. One day, the Minister of Revenue came to present a report. The old man, with tears and snot streaming down his face, lamented the empty state treasury and begged the emperor to cut back on the harem's expenses. Cutting the harem's expenses is just an excuse. What he really wants is for the emperor to allocate funds to me for repairing the river embankment, once the embankment is fixed. My son's official position will be secure. Xiao Ju listened to his inner thoughts, his face expressionless. I sat in a small corner nearby, intently munching on an apple. Click, a crisp sound interrupted the Minister of Revenue's lament. The old man was taken aback. Only then noticing there was someone else in the corner, he glared angrily, cursing inwardly. Where did this bewitching consort come from, daring to eat in the imperial study? This is utterly improper. Xiao Ju's face instantly turned cold. My dear minister, you say the treasury is empty. Why yes, your majesty, in that case, I decree that from today onward, all officials' salaries shall be halved. What does my dear minister think of this? The Minister of Revenue was dumbfounded. What, a pay cut? That won't do. I still have 7 or 8 concubines to support at home. He fell to his knees with a thud. Your majesty, please reconsider. This must not happen. Xiao Ju let out a cold laugh. Since my dear subject finds it inappropriate, then forget it. He paused, then changed his tone. However, I've heard that the garden in your residence is even larger than the imperial garden. It seems your family wealth is substantial. How about you, my dear subject? Donate 8 to 10 million taels to fill the national treasury. The Minister of Revenue's face instantly turned the color of liver. The Minister of Revenue was escorted out. The imperial study returned to silence. I finished eating the apple and tossed the core into the trash bin. Xiaoju looked at me and suddenly spoke. Just now, weren't you afraid? I blinked. Afraid of what? Afraid that I would take my anger out on you. I shook my head. Your Majesty is a wise ruler, fair in rewards and punishments. How could you possibly take your anger out on your subject? But in my heart, I was thinking, you're just taking your anger out on me. What can I do? I can't run away, and I can't win a fight either. Might as well quietly eat an apple and die with a full stomach. Xiaoju looked at me deeply. How he wished he could hear my thoughts at this moment. He wanted to know whether my words wise ruler came from the bottom of my heart or were just insincere flattery like everyone else's. Unfortunately, he couldn't hear it. This sense of powerlessness made him somewhat irritable. He stood up, walked over to me, bent down, and pinched my chin. Shen Yuan, what kind of person are you really? His face was extremely close to mine, and I could clearly see my tiny reflection in his pitch-black pupils. I felt somewhat uncomfortable under his gaze. Your Majesty, you're hurting me. He released his grip, his fingertips gently stroking the reddened skin where he had pinched me, in my presence. There is no need for pretense, he said. I wish to see the real you. My heart skipped a beat. The real me is just a lazy bum who wants to idle around, waiting for death. With an overflowing capacity for sarcasm, if he were to find out, would I even survive? I lowered my head, putting on a frightened expression. Your humble servant is foolish and does not understand what your Majesty means. Xiaoju looked at my unyielding attitude and suddenly laughed. That smile, like the first thaw of ice and snow, carried a hint of helplessness and a touch of indulgence. I must be seeing things. Enough. He straightened up and walked back behind the imperial desk. You may leave. I won't need your service today. I felt as if granted a pardon, quickly bowed, and made my retreat. Watching my fleeing figure, Xiaoju's smile deepened even more. Li Dequan cautiously entered. Cleaning up the mess I had left behind, a floor full of melon seed shells. The Emperor's mood today is truly becoming more and more unpredictable. He could actually smile in front of Lady Shen. Xiaoju picked up a memorial, yet his mood was unprecedentedly good. It's okay, Shen Yuan. We have a long future ahead of us. I have plenty of time and patience to peel away your disguise, layer by layer. I thought when Xiaoju said we have a long future ahead, he meant he would continue testing me in various ways. I never expected he would directly promote my rank. Above the talented lady is the noble lady. I became the noble lady Shen. The day the decree came down, the entire rear palace was in an uproar. How long had I been in the palace? Less than a full month. All told, no family background, no connections, just a pretty face and one night of serving the Emperor. And she rose from a talented lady to a noble lady. That kind of promotion speed is faster than a rocket. Envious glances, sharp as knives, came flying at me one after another. Consort Ju was so furious that she smashed her favorite set of colored glazed teaware. That wretched woman, she must have used some seductive trick to bewitch the Emperor. I absolutely cannot let her continue to be so smug. The other consorts and concubines also had their own thoughts. It seems this Shen Yuan is a formidable rival. I must think of a way to get rid of her. I wonder what skills she possesses that make the Emperor treat her differently. I should go and sound her out another day. I sat in the Weiyang Palace, listening to Chunlan read out the list of congratulatory gifts sent by various palaces, and my head was spinning. Chunlan, lock all these things in the storeroom. Don't touch anyone's gifts. Master, isn't it against the rules? There's nothing against the rules. I rubbed my forehead. In this palace, the most important rule is to survive. These congratulatory gifts may look valuable, but who knows what tricks are hidden inside. I don't want to lose my life over a moment of greed. My laid-back attitude, in Xiaoju's ears, sounded like caution, intelligence, and being unmoved by external things. He increasingly felt that I was the one destined for him, the only person who could bring him peace. Thus, his rewards for me became even more excessive. Silks, satins, jewels, and accessories were sent to Weiyang Palace as if they cost nothing. My storeroom was nearly overflowing. I became the wealthiest, yet the most conspicuous consort in the harem. Finally, someone couldn't sit still any longer. That day, I was basking in the sun in the courtyard while instructing the palace maids on how to plant vegetables. Yes, planting vegetables. I had uprooted all the precious flowers and plants in my courtyard and transformed it into a vegetable patch. Cucumbers, tomatoes, and leafy greens were thriving beautifully. I believe that relying on others is not as reliable as relying on oneself. If one day I fall out of favor and am confined to the cold palace, at least I will still have something to eat. After Xiaoju found out, not only was he not angry, but he even came to take a look twice with great interest. He stood by the vegetable patch, watching me covered in mud as I directed the palace maids to water the plants, and said nothing. But the inner drama of Li Dequan beside him had already played out an entire episode of palace scheming. Oh my, Lady Shen is actually growing vegetables in the palace. If this gets out, what will become of the royal family's dignity? Why doesn't the emperor do something about it? Could this be the legendary return to simplicity? Xiaoju found it quite amusing. He listened as the palace consorts all inwardly schemed about how to win favor and how to harm others. Only I was seriously pondering whether tonight's dinner should be stir-fried baby bok choy or cold tossed cucumber. Truly a breath of fresh air in the harem. Just as I plucked a fresh, juicy cucumber and was about to taste it, Consort Li stormed in with a group of people, full of fury. Shen Yuan, how dare you? You actually practice witchcraft in the palace. With a wave of her hand, the eunuchs behind her immediately rushed into my bedchamber, rummaging through chests and overturning cabinets. Soon, they found a cloth doll hidden beneath my bed. Written on it in cinnabar red was Consort Ju's birth date, and it was pierced all over with silver needles. Caught red-handed, Consort Li laughed triumphantly. Shen Yuan, you're finished. I spent a fortune to buy this from a young eunuch in your palace. With this, let's see how you can turn the tables. I looked at the cloth doll with a calm expression. I even felt a little like laughing. What era is this? And you're still using such low-level framing tactics, Consort Li. With just this little thing, you want to convict me. The person and the evidence are both here, and you still want to quibble, Consort Li said sharply. Guards, seize this wretch and take her to the office of strict punishment. Chuanlan's face turned pale with fright, and she quickly knelt down to plead for mercy. I grabbed her arm and shook my head. No need. I turned my gaze to Consort Li, my eyes cold. There's no need to trouble Consort Li with the punishment office. This matter should be decided by His Majesty. As soon as I finished speaking, an even colder voice came from the doorway. Oh, I would like to hear what matter requires my decision. Xiaoju had arrived. He was dressed in a black dragon robe, approaching against the light like a deity. The moment Xiaoju appeared, the temperature in the entire courtyard seemed to drop by over 10 degrees. Consort Li's legs went weak with fright. And she knelt down. Your servant pays respects to your majesty. Xiaoju didn't even glance at her and walked straight up to me. He took the cucumber from my hand, wiped it on his clothes, and then took a crisp bite. Quite sweet. Only after he finished eating did he turn his gaze toward Consort Li kneeling on the ground and the cloth doll. What is going on here? Consort Li felt a pang of panic in her heart. But she steeled herself and repeated the story she had prepared in advance. The emperor will definitely believe me. Witchcraft is a major taboo in the palace. Shen Yuan is doomed this time. Xiaoju listened to her inner clamor, his gaze growing colder and colder. He looked at me and asked, "Do you have anything to say?" I shook my head. I have nothing to say. I believe in him. An emperor who can see through people's hearts would never be deceived by such a clumsy trick. Sure enough, Xiaoju let out a cold laugh. Consort Li, do you take me for a fool? He threw the half-eaten cucumber in his hand fiercely at Consort Li's face. Someone, investigate for me. I want to know who put this thing in noble Consort Shen's palace. Consort Li was dumbfounded. She never expected that Xiaoju would protect me so blindly without even asking for the facts. Why? Why doesn't the emperor believe me? Could it be that he knows something? Her heart was filled with terror. Soon, the guards who had gone to search returned. They had found a bag of silver and a pawn ticket on a eunuch from Consort Li's palace. The pawn ticket was for one of Consort Li's gold hairpins, and that little eunuch quickly confessed. He had taken Consort Li's money and, while cleaning, secretly placed the cloth doll under my bed. The evidence is irrefutable. Consort Li's face instantly drained of all color. Your Majesty, spare me. Your Majesty, spare me. I was momentarily confused. It was the noble consort. The noble consort ordered me to do this. In desperation, she also implicated consort Ju in the hall of mental cultivation. Xiao Ju listened to their mutual accusations, feeling nothing but disgust. He waved his hand as if shooing away a fly. Noble consort Li is demoted to a lower-ranking consort, to be moved out of the Palace of Eternal Spring and placed under house arrest for 3 months. As for the noble consort, he paused, a flicker of murderous intent flashing in his eyes. As a noble consort, she is consumed by jealousy, framing and slandering other palace consorts. From this day forward, she is stripped of her title and demoted to a consort. Her authority to assist in managing the 6 palaces is also to be revoked. After handling all this, he wearily rubbed his temples. He turned to look at me. From beginning to end, I stood quietly to the side, like an outsider. "Is there nothing you wish to say?" he asked. I shook my head. "Your Majesty is wise." That line again, another perfectly guarded response. He suddenly felt somewhat agitated. He stood up for me, resolved my troubles, and even went so far as to deal with 2 high-ranking concubines all at once. He thought that, at the very least, I would show him a trace of gratitude or dependence, but he saw nothing. My heart was like a city surrounded by high walls. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break through. "Shen Yuan," he looked at me and asked word by word, "Do you even have a heart?" I didn't know how to answer Xiao Ju's question. Say I have a heart, but my heart died the moment the Shen family was raided and exiled. You say I have no heart. Yet, facing his unreserved protection, I truly felt a trace of warmth. I could only remain silent. Xiao Ju looked at my silent expression, and the light in his eyes gradually dimmed. He smiled self-deprecatingly and turned to leave. That figure seemed somewhat desolate. I stood where I was, watching the direction in which he had left, and for the first time, I felt an indescribable and inexplicable emotion in my heart. After that night, Xiao Ju did not come to Weiyang Palace for half a month. He also did not summon any of his consorts. He locked himself in the imperial study, handling state affairs day and night. People in the palace all said that Lady Shen had fallen out of favor. Those who had previously tried to curry favor with me instantly changed their attitude. My Weiyang Palace returned to its former desolation. I don't mind at all. Perfect timing. I can expand the scale of my vegetable garden. I even built a small chicken coop and raised a few hens, so I get fresh eggs every day. Life is quite enjoyable. That day, I was in the chicken coop collecting eggs when I suddenly heard a commotion outside. The assassins, "Protect His Majesty, protect His Majesty." Startled, I rushed out to see what was happening. I saw a group of men in black fighting fiercely with the Imperial Guards. Blades clashed and blood splattered everywhere, and Xiao Ju was not far away. He had ventured alone into danger to pursue an assassin leader, with only a few guards by his side. Just then, a figure in black raised a sword and swung it at him from behind, and he was being held up by someone else, with no time to spare. Watch out. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but in a moment of impulse, I rushed over. I grabbed a flower pot nearby and threw it at the man in black with all my strength. The flower pot hit him square on the back of the head. The man in black let out a muffled groan and collapsed to the ground, but his blade had already been swung. Though it missed its intended mark, it still managed to slice a long gash across Xiao Ju's arm. In an instant, blood stained his dragon robe. The assassins were quickly eliminated. Xiao Ju's arm wound was deep, and the bleeding wouldn't stop. The imperial physicians trembled as they bandaged him, each one sweating profusely from fear. Yet Xiao Ju seemed not to feel any pain, his eyes fixed intently on me. "Why did you rush over just now?" Feeling a bit guilty under his gaze, I said, Your servant only wanted to protect your Majesty." "Protect me?" he sneered. "You don't even dare to kill a chicken. And you want to protect me?" "Me?" He seems to make a lot of sense. I really must have lost my mind just now. He looked at me with a complicated expression in his eyes. "Aren't you afraid of death?" "Yes," I answered truthfully. "Then why did you come?" "Because," I paused for a moment and said quietly, "I don't want you to die." I said these words very softly, but everyone present heard them. Xiao Ju's body stiffened almost imperceptibly. The imperial physicians all halted their movements, none daring to even breathe loudly. The bedchamber fell into an eerie silence. Just then, Xiao Ju suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. The scene before his eyes began to blur and overlap. The noisy thoughts in his ears seemed to be blocked by something, gradually fading away. The world was unprecedentedly quiet. Then, a clear voice, tinged with a hint of worry and complaint, abruptly broke into his mind. "Sigh, losing so much blood, it looks painful just watching. The wound treatment is so rough. Are the Imperial physicians just eating plain rice? I wonder if the bones or tendons were injured." Xiao Ju suddenly raised his head and looked at me. I was standing not far away, watching his wound with a worried expression. His childhood was so miserable. No wonder his temper is so bad. How pitiful. Being an emperor isn't that great either, having to face a bunch of hypocrites every day, and always guarding against assassination attempts. Forget it, forget it. Considering he showed a bit of conscience earlier, I won't hold it against him. I hope he learns his lesson this time and doesn't act so impulsively again. One sentence after another, crystal clear, every single one of them is my true feelings. Xiao Ju was completely stunned. He could hear, after being injured, at a time when his mind-reading ability had become extremely unstable, he had actually heard the thoughts of this woman who had always been a blank slate to him, and in her thoughts, there was no fear, no scheming, no desire, only the most genuine concern, and a little sympathy. He looked at me, and his eyes unexpectedly reddened. My inner voice, like a beam of light, cleaved through the chaotic world Xiao Ju had inhabited for years. For the first time, he realized that not everyone's heart was filled with filth and schemes. It turns out there really are people who simply worry about him, who pity him. This feeling was unfamiliar, yet it made him crave it all the more. From that day on, his mind-reading ability became erratic. Sometimes, he could hear everyone's inner thoughts, so loud it made his head ache unbearably. Sometimes, he couldn't hear anything at all, and the whole world fell into complete silence. But as long as I was by his side, he could intermittently catch my thoughts. Thus, I was forced to transform from a carefree noble who grew vegetables into an indispensable accessory by His Majesty's side. When he held court, I had to sit behind the screen. He reviews memorials, and I have to accompany him. He eats, and I have to sit across from him, responsible for serving him dishes, even when he sleeps. He has me moved to the side hall of his bedchamber. Under the pretext of making it convenient to serve, I feel that my personal freedom is severely restricted. I'm so annoyed, having to face this ice block expression every day. The cucumbers in my vegetable patch are about to get overripe. The dompa pork from the Imperial kitchen today was quite good, fatty but not greasy, though a bit too salty. Li Dequan's horsetail whisk seems to be newly replaced. The hairs look quite smooth. I wonder what they're made of. My inner complaints have become Xiao Ju's greatest daily amusement. He often couldn't help but curl the corners of his mouth while listening. This led all the court officials and palace attendants to believe that their usually stern-faced emperor had been possessed by something. One day, the Minister of War and the Minister of Personnel were arguing fiercely in the court over the appointment and removal of a military officer. Minister of War, this Zhong-san is my man. He must be sent, otherwise, how can I get my cut? Minister of Personnel, bullshit. That position was clearly reserved for my brother-in-law. How dare you compete with me for it? On the surface, both men cited classics and spoke with high-sounding rhetoric, but in their hearts, they were both full of deceit and corruption. Xiao Ju found it all giving him a headache. He instinctively sought out my inner thoughts, hoping to find a moment of peace. What's all this arguing about? What's there to argue over? Why not have both of them take the positions together, one as the chief, the other as the deputy, supervising each other so neither can act corruptly? Xiao Ju's eyes lit up. Exactly, why hadn't he thought of that? He immediately made the decision. No more arguing. Let it be as Shin, ahum. We decree that Zhong-san shall serve as the chief commander, and Li Sai, the Minister of Personnel's brother-in-law, as the deputy commander. Effective immediately, both ministers were dumbfounded. They had wanted to argue further, but upon seeing Xiao Ju's unyielding gaze, they had no choice but to swallow their grievances and accept the decree. After the court session, Xiao Ju returned to the imperial study in high spirits. He pulled me out from behind the screen and planted a kiss on my cheek. My beloved consort, you truly are my virtuous helpmate. I was completely baffled by his sudden intimate gesture. What's going on? I didn't do anything. How did I suddenly become the virtuous helpmate? Did the emperor get his head squeezed by a door or something? Xiao Ju heard my inner thoughts, and the smile on his face grew even wider. His little fool still didn't realize how she had unintentionally helped him solve such a huge problem. He believed that keeping me by his side was the most correct decision he had ever made in his life. After Consort Ju was demoted and placed under house arrest, she became much more subdued. However, the Ju family and the Empress Dowager behind her refused to let the matter rest. Soon after, the Empress Dowager, using the excuse that the emperor should not be without someone close to care for him, sent another one of her nieces, Ju Wanru, into the palace. Ju Wanru bore a 7 or 8 out of 10 resemblance to her elder sister, Ju Wanhue, but their temperaments were entirely different. While Ju Wanhue was openly arrogant and domineering, this Ju Wanru was a white lotus hiding a dagger behind her smile. As soon as she entered the palace, she was granted the title of Jiyu, and the emperor's favor for her was second only to mine. Every day, she would find various ways to cozy up to Xiao Ju. Today, she brings handcrafted soup. Tomorrow, she plays a melody she composed herself. Xiao Ju found it utterly exasperating. He could clearly hear the calculations in Ju Wanru's heart. As long as I can replace that wretched Xin Yuan and become the emperor's most favored consort, our Ju family can rise again. I can also avenge my sister. But he couldn't directly lose his temper, because Ju Wanru appeared flawless on the surface, and if he punished her without reason, it would be seen as disrespectful to the Empress Dowager. So, I became the one to suffer. Every day, I was forced to watch a grand performance of a White Lotus act. That day, Xiao Ju was reading in the pavilion of the Imperial Garden, and as usual, I was peeling an orange for him beside him. Ju Wanru gracefully walked over, holding a bowl of bird's nest soup. Your humble consort pays respects to your majesty, and greets Lady Shen. After finishing her salute, she was about to hand the bird's nest soup to Xiao Ju. As a result, he slipped and lunged toward me. The bowl of scalding bird's nest soup spilled directly onto the back of my hand. Ah! I cried out in pain. The back of my hand instantly turned bright red. Oh my, Sister Shen, are you all right? It's all my fault. I was so careless. Ju Wanru looked utterly panicked, her tears coming on demand, appearing even more wrong than I was. I hope that scalds you to death, you vixen. How dare you try to steal the emperor from me? The viciousness in her heart formed a stark contrast with the innocence on her face. Xiao Ju's face instantly darkened, looking as if it could drip with water. He pulled me into his arms and gently blew on the back of my scalded hand. Summon the imperial physician, he roared at Li Dequan. Then, he lifted his head and fixed his icy gaze on Ju Wanru. Consort Ju, if your feet are incapable of walking, I wouldn't mind having them chopped off for you. Ju Wanru was terrified. She never expected that Xiao Ju would say such harsh words for my sake. How could he be so protective of Xin Yuan? Could he have seen through my scheme? Impossible. I acted so convincingly. She knelt on the ground, weeping as if pear blossoms were bathed in rain. Your Majesty, I truly did not do it on purpose. Please investigate clearly, Your Majesty, and spare me this once. Xiao Ju watched her performance coldly. If it were in the past, he might have shown her some tolerance because of her slight resemblance to Ju Wanhue, but now, listening to her malicious inner curses and comparing them to the simple complaints in my mind, he felt nothing but disgust. What was I thinking at that time? Hiss, so hot. The White Lotus's acting is too exaggerated. Even worse than the monkey in the Imperial Garden. But this bird's nest smells quite fragrant. What a pity. Yes. My first reaction at that time was actually feeling sorry for that bowl of bird's nest. Xiao Ju heard my inner thoughts, both annoyed and amused. He pinched my cheek, his tone tinged with a hint of helplessness. What on earth is going on in that little head of yours all day? I clutched my scalded hand, grimacing in pain, and snapped irritably, thinking about my cucumbers. If I don't go back to harvest them soon, they'll all be stolen. Xiao Ju. He decided not to argue with this little foodie. He turned his attention back to Ju Wanru. You didn't do it on purpose.
Directly carried me to the bed. Yuan. He lowered his head to kiss me, his voice hoarse. Give me a child. I was stunned. Have a child. I don't want to. Giving birth is painful, and my figure will be ruined. Hearing my inner thoughts, Xiao Ju's movements halted. He lifted his head, looking at me with a somewhat hurt expression. You don't want to. Only then did I realize what I had been thinking. I flustered and explained, no, that's not it. Your Majesty, no need to explain. He interrupted me, turned over and lay beside me, holding me tightly in his arms. I heard it. My heart skipped a beat. Did you hear that? What did he hear? Could it be? A terrible thought flashed through my mind. I tentatively, silently recited a line in my heart. Xiaoju is a big idiot. The next second, I felt the arms holding me tighten abruptly. A dangerous, teeth-grinding voice sounded in my ear. Shen, Yuan, what did you just call me in your heart? Me. This is bad. Barbecued. My biggest secret has been discovered. I play dead. I close my eyes and pretend I'm already asleep. Xiaoju laughed in disbelief. He pinched my nose, preventing me from breathing. Still pretending, my face turned red from holding my breath, and I could only open my eyes, looking at him with an innocent expression. Your Majesty, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I absolutely cannot admit it. Otherwise, I'm definitely dead. Xiaoju listened to my inner thoughts that only made me more suspicious. Feeling both angry and amused, he let go of my hand and flicked my forehead. You little liar. He sighed and pulled me back into his embrace, resting his chin on top of my head. I can hear it, he said. I've always been able to hear the thoughts of others, except for you. Until last time, after I was injured, I started to be able to hear you intermittently. I froze completely. Can he really read minds? Then all those times I complained about him in my head, he must have heard every single one. Then you, I cautiously asked, what did you hear? He's not going to drag me out and execute me. Is it too late for me to beg for mercy now? I heard you say that I am pitiable. Xiaoju's voice carried a barely perceptible fragility. I also heard you say that I'm a big idiot. My face flushed bright red in an instant. It's over. I'm really done for this time. I buried my head in his chest, not daring to look at him. I waited for a long time, but the expected thunderous rage never came. All I heard was his light chuckle. However, I also heard it. He paused, his voice turning gentle. You said your heart is beating so fast. You said you secretly think of me. I buried my head even deeper. I felt as if I had been stripped naked and thrown onto the street, utterly ashamed and with nowhere to hide. So, he cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. Now, do you still think giving birth is painful? Gazing into the starlight in his eyes, as if bewitched, I shook my head. He smiled. That smile was as brilliant as if it had taken possession of the whole world. He lowered his head and kissed me again. This time, it was gentle and lingering. Ever since Xiaoju laid his cards on the table, the way we interacted had become even more strange. I don't dare to casually complain about him in my heart anymore, because every time I complain about him, he would punish me with his actions. For example, I said he looked like a moving gold ingot when wearing the dragon robe. So tacky, his taste needs improvement. The next day, he rewarded me with a chest full of gold ingots. My beloved consort, don't you like them? I've given them all to you. Me, I'm not. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. Another example, I said he looked too serious when reviewing memorials, like a little old man. You're only in your 20s. Yet you act like you're in your 50s or 60s, with no energy at all. That very night, he personally demonstrated to me what young people's energy really means. The next day, I couldn't even straighten my back. After a few times, I learned my lesson. I started finding different ways to praise him in my heart. Your Majesty looks so handsome today. Your profile is flawless from every angle. Your Majesty looks so charming when handling state affairs, truly worthy of being the chosen one. Your Majesty has such a great figure. Your abs are even harder than the washboard in my palace. Xiaoju listened to my rainbow farts every day, and his mood was incredibly good. As a result, the atmosphere in the entire court became much more harmonious. The ministers all said that Lady Shen was truly a lucky star. Only I knew that this was a forced mutual flattery out of helplessness. But as I kept saying it, it seemed there was a little bit genuine sincerity in it. Because I discovered that Xiaoju was truly making an effort to become a good emperor and a good husband, he began to listen to the ministers' opinions and no longer acted arbitrarily. He would stay up all night devising strategies for the people at the border. He would clumsily brew brown sugar water for me during my period. Even though it ended up burnt, he gave all his tenderness and patience to me alone. How could I not be moved by someone like him? On the day I was promoted to imperial consort, my father's case was finally overturned. The Shen family's name was cleared. My family was also brought back from exile. I knew that all of this was done by Xiaoju for my sake. He was using his own way to make up for the suffering I had endured. My father was reinstated to his official position. Even higher than before, my mother and brother came to the palace to see me, holding my hands with tears streaming down their faces. Yuan, you've suffered so much. I shook my head and smiled. It's not bitter, it's very sweet now. I looked over at the man not far away, dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe, smiling as he watched me. Meeting him is the greatest fortune of my life. Our first child is a prince. On the day of his birth, Xiao Ju held the soft, delicate little baby and smiled like a fool. This is the child of Zhen and Yuan. He is so small, so soft. Zhen will give him the best of everything in the world. I lay in bed, watching the father and son. My heart filled with tenderness. Xiao Ju, thank you for barging into my desolate world and giving me a spring. He heard my thoughts, turned around, and pressed a gentle kiss on my forehead. You fool, it's me. I should be the one thanking you. Many years later, Xiao Ju abdicated the throne and became the retired emperor. He passed the throne to our son. Then, he took me and left the palace to travel and enjoy the mountains and waters. We went to many places. We saw the misty rain of the Jiangnan region, the lonely smoke of the vast desert, and the sunrise over the East Sea. His mind-reading ability became completely stable after I gave birth to our child. He could only hear my thoughts. I only want to hear the voice of my heart. That day, we sat in a small boat, drifting on West Lake. The afterglow of the setting sun shimmered on the lake's surface, sparkling with golden light. He leaned against the bow of the boat, eyes closed. Looking completely content, I looked at the frost-like white that had unknowingly tinged his temples and felt a wave of emotion. Time really flies. In the blink of an eye, we've both grown old, but it's good to grow old. When we're old, we can stay together like this forever. He suddenly opened his eyes, turned his head, and took my hand. Yuan, in the next life, will you still be willing to marry me? I smiled. In my heart, I answered him loudly. I do, 1,000 times over, I would. He heard it, he smiled, just as dazzling as when we first met. Only this time, there was no hesitation or calculation in his smile, only an overwhelming, overflowing love. In his lifetime, he had heard countless voices, flattering, malicious, greedy, fearful, but in the end, only one remained in his heart forever, and that was me. The end.